So we're now on to up here. Did you find them? No.
That's
All right. Hi, John. Get on. Hi, John.
Hey, everybody.
Hi. Thanks for joining us. So we've called the meeting to order at 7:06. And let's get right into it. As far as my remarks go, there has been some progress on the signage issue down at 11 Main Street. As you recall, when we approved the change of use there, we made clear that any exterior signage would have to go to the HDRB. None of it did, and a great deal of signage accreted to the facade of the building. Some of it has been taken down already, particularly the signs related to food service, which they were not approved of during the change of use. But I'm assuming the rest of the signs will go through the HDRB process. Okay. This morning I got a call from the treasurer. It's budget time again. And there were some simple issues. One is not so simple, but we are supporting an increase in hours for Karen for the coming year because she works like a dog. Where I've also suggested that Karen give the expense figures for the 3 NICOM training sessions and John's 4th training session, and so that can go in the budget. And that was about it. So if any of the board members have any budget suggestions, just send them to me and I'll pass them along. Okay. And finally, our letter to Hudson Highland Fjord Trail, which has not received a response to us, was for some reason read as a request on our part to involve ourselves in negotiations with the payments that would go to their consultants. And I'm really, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, let's turn. So, yeah, exactly. So I'm, I can imagine many things being somehow taken when reading our letter, but not that particular one. So what I would like is, with your permission, is to send a very brief letter to Hudson Highlands Fjord Trail saying that we were made aware of this, as we were by the mayor, and just reiterating that that is not in any way the purpose of our letter. So if you will permit me to do that, I will write that up. And why won't my phone turn off? And we can straighten up that matter. Okay. So those are my comments. I don't think we'll need to modify the agenda today, and we will act on the minutes which we received from Karen at our next meeting. So we will move right on to reports of the members. Any member reports?
I passed the new Butterfield building thing there. It looks like a matchbox made up by 2x4s. It's just ugly, so ugly, and so close to the road. It's so close when you turn over driving from Boswell direction into the village. That view is completely blocked by that building there. It's about this close to the.
Yeah. It was the original design is that was supposed to have interaction with the street, right? Like Main Street.
Right.
Unfortunately, the medical actually was not supposed to be approved down on the first floor. were the ones where the windows are whited out.
Yeah,
So that was supposed to have interaction with the street.
just gonna activate
Yeah.
the street.
Yeah.
Yeah. which would-
And so that's what it's supposed to have, like a Main Street feel. That didn't happen, unfortunately, and it.
That's interesting.
Because the code enforcement officer approved the. New York Presbyterian taking over that first floor, expanding down there. So, and that's why that one is like that, because it's retail on the first floor. And so the idea was that you come across from Chestnut Ridge and there'd be this kind of, this interaction between the buildings and the street.
Will there be retail still on that first floor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there a plan for what retail or it's just gonna be rented out?
Just the use, yeah.
Yeah, and I assume that the exterior is gonna look
Same.
the same. That's what
Yeah.
they said during that, yeah.
Yeah,
So, yeah, it's a chock full site, that is for sure.
it's pretty ugly. Anyway, it's, and the building itself, my first question is, will withstand any earthquake? And then maybe not, but maybe you won't die because the structure is so flimsy.
I don't know, they have structural steel, actually. Did you see they did the back steel?
Yeah.
It looks like that's some serious framing, yeah.
I didn't see
Yeah.
the frame, I just saw.
We don't
the
do framing, but
Okay.
what do we do ugly or pretty, but.
5 floors.
Yeah, but it's, I mean, from a person that buys construction and manages it, it seems like it's pretty solidly built. I was amazed to see that steel structure.
I know.
I'm not sure what that was for on
Right.
the back half of it.
Yeah.
I didn't.
So clearly the engineer must thought there's some sort of need for rigidity.
Yeah.
Okay, didn't see that, just, you know, the.
Wood framing, yeah.
It just,
Well, it's not done either. There's another half floor going up, so.
okay.
Yeah.
Look good.
All right, well,
So that's my report.
all right, well, thank you. Correspondence, we have.
Beautiful, the site was clear.
I was there, I joined the board when we went to look at the beech tree. That's the only part of that.
Yeah,
Just
all right,
Process that I've been.
all right.
Sorry.
If we can move on, please. Correspondence, none, except a secondhand verbal heads up about our letter to the Fjord Trail. Old business, none, new business. We have before us, as I mentioned, we might, at the last meeting, an application that has been being discussed at the village Board of Trustees level for some time, which involves the transfer of village property to Nina Studio on Fair Street. And we have with us tonight Crystal Wheatley, who is the attorney for the project, to give us a little background, if you will, please. And then we can, and I'm sure, you know, for the public interest too. And then we can talk about what the subsequent steps are going to be here. So why don't you give us a brief summary?
Sure.
Thank you.
As the chairman has already mentioned, my name is Crystal Wheatley. And I have been retained to represent Nina Studio with the 37 Fair Street project that they're doing there. It's going to be, as you already know, because it's come before you, it's an art studio with a caretaker's residence area. And during the course of that time, I seem to have the same issue that Jack has. During the course of that time, there was an inquiry about some surplus property that the village owned, which was a part of the garage. Kind of in like a weird slopey area, but it was right in the backyard there. And so she wanted to extend her backyard area. And so that's how this came about. At this time, there's been no plans to do anything with the property, so there's been no plans to put blacktop it or any sort of impervious type of surfacing to be done. No earth grading or anything like that. I mean, it's just an extension of her backyard because the property's not being used and the way it's situated, it's just sitting there. So that's why she was interested in having it extended.
And the existing property line the backyard, makes the backyard kind of narrow,
Correct.
right? Yeah.
Exactly. So this will sort of widen the backyard a bit and just give a little bit more space back there for her, for what she's doing.
Thank you. John, do you want to just give us also a brief summary from the village's point of view?
Sure. Yeah, and just to clarify, so I know the village has been in discussion with Nina's Studio LLC, I think since the fall. Honestly, it wasn't until I received the information and the request and the survey from the mayor, I think right before Christmas, and I didn't have a chance to sit down and look at it till the end of January. Is at that point, when I looked at it, I realized that this is going to require the lot line change because you're dealing with two tax parcels that are adjoining, and one is kind of taking a little bit of land. I think it's 4,480 square feet from the other. So what you have to do is you have to adjust the tax parcels accordingly and file a map in the county clerk's office. And that way the county clerks will then adjust the tax maps and the acreage of each of the corresponding lots. So the village board and none of us didn't really come to my attention until I had a chance to sit down and look at this in the end of January. The lot line change as far as the planning board approval aspect. Yeah, so the village had passed an informal resolution essentially agreeing to sell the land as surplus for a certain amount per square foot, which is the standard amount. They've got to get fair and adequate consideration. And so now we're in the process of really, I've drafted a formal resolution for the board. And then there's some standard, very brief contracts that we need to enter into. And, you know, we can't close on this until this lot line, boundary line change is approved by the planning board, because in order to file that map in the county clerk's office, we need a signature from the planning board chair. In order to get that signature from the planning board chair, we need to come before the entire board and seek an approval. You know, we really being Nina Studios is kind of responsible since they're the buyer on this.
Don, I should know this because I suggested it to the code update committee, but the code was changed, so the planning board got a look at lot line adjustments. It used to be we did not get a look, right? But isn't it
Correct.
just a code enforcement review, or do we have to do an amended site plan for the lot line adjustment? I forget.
So for a boundary line change, you can, the code was updated and it does specifically call out, I'm calling it an expedited review process. It's
Yes.
expedited in the sense that it's not as long or onerous as a major subdivision or even a minor subdivision.
Right.
So there is a boundary line change. Once you identify it as a boundary line change, then you can classify it, and classify it as a boundary line change, which I believe this is. It meets the definition to a T. Then you can approve this via sketch plan review only, which does not require a public hearing. It doesn't require as much information on the plans. And there, in my mind, is I'm putting in air quotes here, the expedited portion of it. So yes, and every municipality is different. So some municipalities, a lot of them have a process like this for boundary line changes.
Right.
Where it's a 1 or 2 meeting kind of thing. Some of them, though, you're like the way your code was written, there are some municipalities that would really just require you to go to code enforcement and then just go to the chairperson to get it signed.
So
But here you have the process.
Yeah, the challenge that we had was people didn't have to come before us. And obviously, the whole point of this and working with the code update committee was that the property owner didn't put themselves in a bad situation. We had some bad,
Yeah, we had some illegal
Yeah.
subdivisions, yes.
yeah, well, illegal subdivisions, but also, yes. And then they had property that couldn't even be accessed or sold, or which is not,
Yes.
so it's basically to help us not so they don't hurt themselves.
Right, and it's to make
So
sure
who-
that the county records are consistent
Right. So I forget I know my thought on this at the time was that it's the code enforcement officer that should confirm that no nonconformity is being created or increased by the lot line adjustment. Is that the way it ended up? I apologize. I haven't reviewed the latest code. I should remember this because like I said, I said.
I mean, that would be something that could be looked at. I mean, in this case, the lot is becoming larger. And the other lot is a village lot. But yes, you want to make sure the lot line change is not creating any nonconformities. And that could be done by the code enforcement officer, or their surveyor could probably put together like like a bulk table or even a statement to that effect and put that on the maps. So that way we can make sure
Oh, right.
that it's not creating any nonconformities.
Okay, well, as John has stated, we can't come to a conclusion on this until the formal resolution by the Village Board of Trustees is passed.
But it was reversed.
No,
I thought he needs a.
but we still need the formal resolution first before, and then we act on it, and then it can go to the county.
Oh,
Okay,
I'm not sure if this has to go to the county, you mean county planning?
no, not county planning,
Okay.
the county tax office.
Oh, okay, yes.
To
yeah.
register the change. No,
Well,
it doesn't, as far as I can tell, need to go to county.
No,
planning.
no, and I think for subdivisions, I don't think it's,
Okay.
for lot line changes, it's not required. But yeah, so I mean, I think there's some things we still need. Minor things, which I don't anticipate any issues getting those in plenty of time for you guys to review for the next meeting. One of them is, and I think I mentioned this to the attorney, that we still need a secret form. I think this is an unlisted action. And even though the village board went through its own secret or will go through its own secret, I just think it'd be better to have a separate one submitted because it's uncoordinated review and you guys are going to do your own secret. So that's something, we need the short form environmental assessment form. The other thing is, I think it would be helpful if the surveyor basically provides some type of certification that this plan meets all the requirements for sketch plan review. And at the same time, I think the surveyor maybe should also include, to Matt's point, maybe include a bulk table for both lots to show that it's not creating or increasing any nonconformities. And probably in my mind, it's probably going to decrease them for the 37 Fair Street. It's going to make it more conforming.
Coverage.
Yeah, it's going to make it more conforming, so.
Right.
But I think that's because in the future, that's a good point. There may be situations where a lot line change may create nonconformities or increase nonconformities. And in that case, then you would have to kick them over to the zoning board.
Yep.
But I don't think that's the case here, but I think the surveyor should do a little bulk table just to confirm that.
Yeah.
So the formal resolution is going to go before the Village Board of Trustees on March 1st. And at that point, the mayor becomes a co-applicant. The village becomes co-applicant and the village, but the mayor signs,
Right.
has to sign as a co-applicant. And then at that point, once we're in receipt of the short form CEQA, once we're in receipt of, I didn't actually check, that the drawing, the engineer's survey of the site meets the standards which are actually in the code of what needs to be covered, and we need a sealed affidavit on that, which we discussed.
You mean the land surveyor?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, just all the dimensions
Yeah.
for conformity, side yard setback, that way it'll, what it is, and then what the addition will create
Okay.
to show the two.
And
That's the bulk table that
Yes.
John.
yeah, and basically it's simply certifying what they've done meets the specific qualifications in the code.
What was the date that you just
March first is when the village is gonna, yes, take up the formal resolution. And so we will calendar this for our meeting on March 9th, is it? And at that point, if we so choose, we can clear up any questions that remain and then act on this application. Now, we have, and you all have received electronic copies of the information that we have received. And so I urge you to read through it carefully. And if you have any questions, please just send them to me and I'll collect them and send them to Crystal to sort of simplify the flow of information and then get them back to you. And John, I will, if you'll copy John on any of your responses, Crystal,
Absolutely.
so he'll be kept up to date. So having said that, are there any questions now around the table about the content or the history of the application?
John, I assume the village has properly surplus the property? They've,
Yeah, so they already made an informal finding back in the fall that it's unneeded surplus property. They did that by a verbal motion, so.
and in your opinion, that's sufficient? In your
Yeah,
opinion,
so-
council, that's sufficient?
Yeah, so they're gonna pass a formal resolution on March first, just
Okay.
reiterating the fact that this is surplus, it's not needed. It looks like it's a little nub. That really can't be utilized by the larger highway garage site. So, the board discussed that back in the fall, and so I just have to reiterate it in a formal resolution.
Okay, and then the chapter for lot line adjust, that's 134, right?
111, I thought it was 111-4.
Oh, 111?
Yeah, 111 dash.
That's what I pulled up.
Right,
Yeah.
gotcha, okay.
That's under the subdivision regulations.
And that was adopted, right? The only one that wasn't adopted yet was 134.
Yeah, the zoning, which I think they're working on that, and we're
Okay.
getting closer. But I believe the subdivision regulations were adopted a year or two ago. Yeah, 21. So looks like 21, yeah, so 2 years ago.
And just to reiterate what John said too, this action does not require a public hearing. And so as I think we need to wait upon the formal resolution by the Board of Trustees and as the sort of, and the collection of what outstanding information is left for us to act on it. Yeah. Crystal, do you have any questions about the remaining process or?
I think we've been communicating about this. And I think I've asked mostly what I had. I had a question about the environmental disclosures, which I already discussed. We're emailing back and forth with John. And so he just provided clarity. John, I didn't get it till I had left the office for the day to come
Yeah.
to make sure I got up here on time, but we'll make sure we get that out. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. And like I said, you can go to their database and it kind of fills in most of the information.
Okay.
Okay. All right, well, are there any members of the public online? No, okay. I don't think we have any more board business to do. That was fun. So thank you. Well, you know, I'm quorum, pretty, where it's always so close.
No kidding, that's our job.
And an alternate member, by the way, is not a simple thing to do, even though it's in the code.
Did you talk to her?
Oh, yes, but it's it's just complicated. It really is. Appointing an alternate member,
Shouldn't be.
well, it is. So the stage it's just, it's not a simple thing to do, even though the code appears simple. Okay,
I didn't know that, no.
so I'm with you. So, all right, thank you for coming, and we'll see you on March 9th, I hope. And so may I have a motion to
She already did, I know.
Was it seconded? You seconded. Okay, may I have all in favor? Thank you. Before we close, thank you for stepping in. Jeff.
Thank
You're welcome.
And everybody do your homework. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Don.
All right, good night.
I didn't get a chance to review the, because I remember doing that. We had, what was interesting was, were you on when we did the Foundry, the Campbell property?